Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Screen to Screen. I'm Andrew, and I'm joined by my friend, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike.
Chris is still gone because he was in Japan, as you probably already know, and he's got a lot of sleep and work to catch up on. And today, we're going to do Chess the movie. I imagine, the way we're building this, we probably want to have, the characters in the movie will be the characters on the board. Probably a lot of pawns, but, the hero pieces are going to be in there. The thing that's weird about chess is that, they're the same on both sides. So it's going to be we're doubling up this cast a bit.
Yeah.
The characters are going to be very similar on both sides. The protagonist is probably a pawn. There's probably someone on the ground. When we hear the word pawn, we think of someone basically who has no control over their destiny. They're just fodder for the cannons. And I sort of see this movie as maybe a pawn who thinks for himself for once. And maybe this is an ensemble piece. Maybe that's just one story. There are two factions involved in a bit of a war. It seems pretty pointless because they are very similar. And it's, they each have the same people on both sides. And to us, it's a game. It's just who's going to win. It's the point of it is to win. It's not for anything important to them in the game world. For them it means everything. But maybe to a pawn, I'm sort of tying this to real world stuff. It sort of feels like when you have the rich and powerful calling the shots, sometimes the war doesn't make sense to the people on the ground, and it's sort of, it's a commentary on war in that way. The game is black and white, and that's how the powers that be want you to see this. It's us versus them, black and white, very easy. They're the bad guys. But we as players of the game chess know that there's nothing special about this fight. It's just who can win.
So here's another question: if if we've got a pawn as our protagonist, what's his end game? Does he fight and win for his side, or does he rebel against his masters?
I think there's that definitely is the question to ask. What is the takeaway? What do we learn from this game? Does he unite maybe all the pawns unite on both sides? Maybe he leads a revolution or something. But that also kind of gets away from the point of chess, because that doesn't happen in chess. Maybe the pawn makes it to the other side of the board and becomes any piece he wants. Maybe that's his journey.
The power was in him all along.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like maybe if it was a little bit magical, if he could get to the other side, if he can infiltrate the other castle, there's a special relic or whatever that can transform him into maybe his true self.
The story is told, it's all on the board. We're not looking at the masters, the two players who control the pieces. They're just non-existent.
Right, yeah.
These pieces are maybe autonomous.
Yeah.
Okay, so they make their own decisions for themselves. Are they working as a unit? Is this a story of two sides, or is this a story of 16 different people with different hopes and dreams?
I think kind of both. I feel like that's what life is. We're all individuals, but we also have our own little teams. The king and the queen could be a fun thing. I feel like that's probably very, very important because they're the most unique pieces on the board.
I feel the king and queen relationship is going to set the tone, because depending on the relationship between the king and the queen, they're interacting with, and they're the ones in control. Is this a comedy or is this a drama? Because that starts. There's obviously the relationship between the two sides. Yeah, and that's important. That's what this is all about. But then if we look at the dynamic between the king and queen, and that's really kind of peeling back the purpose of all this. Is this done to impress, to win over, to meet expectations, to prove one's worth to their, and is it a partnership? Are they equals? Is there one?
It seems like the king is the most important piece because he's the game ending sort of thing. But I almost feel this is it's almost like a Lady Macbeth sort of thing, where I imagine the queen, she's the most powerful piece, but she's not the most important piece. So it's almost like she has this lust for power, and she knows that the only way, like, their chess laws are, it's a patriarchal society, but she is actually the one controlling things. Like, the king is just a figurehead. Maybe that's the way to go there, and maybe there's like tension there. The king knows he's inadequate.
Okay, so is there a deviousness to the queen and her actions, or is it kind of a role of strength that she knows this is what needs to happen to keep it all together?
Maybe there's a question here that we need to answer. Are we seeing this all from one side, or are we going to see both queens? Is this more of is the chessboard a representation of a larger kingdom, or is this kingdom a sort of like a representation of the chessboard? Is this a alternate fantasy fictional land where there are only, like, these are the only people in the kingdom? Like, is that how this works? Like, this doesn't represent real life. This is the chess universe, and in the chess universe, the world is only as big as the board. Is that the way we want to go?
So there's nothing beyond these 8x8.
I don't know. I think that the tiles is another thing we need to address. I feel like I see this as like a world with like castles and stuff, and I guess there is like the rooks. Now that's an interesting question.
What's a rook?
I always kind of thought a rook would be like an archer because they're on the top,
the towers.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But how do they like move around? And that's, again, with a fantasy sort of feel. We could take more, like, maybe it's not like a magical moving castle, but it is like some sort of absurd vehicle that's like pushed by elephants or something. That's like a shooting tower, like
some sort of mortal engine.
Yeah. It's not historically accurate, but it is within the realm of like believability to a degree.
What about the knight? There's no subtlety.
Yeah.
There's just they're there. They're bold. They're
right
in your face. We know what they're about. They're there to fight. Are they? Well, are they heroic? Are they simpletons? What are we working with?
Well, I think the most fun place to start to answer that question is they move very weird.
They do.
Like, I get the rook as an archer because they're shooting in a direction. It sort of makes sense. It's
straight
analogous.
As an arrow.
Yeah. But the knight it can jump over people too. Like, that's another thing. Like, it's on a horse. It can jump over pieces.
And they always do the L shape.
Right, yeah. Now, is that them sticking their sword out to the side? Is that what that represents? Like, I don't know what that could mean.
They're tricky. They're tricky. At first, I thought they'd be the simplest character, but then you question the movement, their motion.
Yeah. What are they doing?
That's something else altogether. And what about the bishop? The bishop, I feel like that's a character, a role to play that could be, I don't know, is this like a Dan Aykroyd Soul Man?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Is this sort of I feel like history and film and literature is covered. We've seen bishops as the sort of the devious, the scheming.
Yeah. I think it's still. I think still the thing that I'm scratching my head over is, what are we just seeing one side of this battle? Because it could make sense that one. There's two bishops on each side, but that means there's four bishops in the movie, and it's easy to go like, oh well, this bishop's this, but like, there's three other bishops. So are we only seeing this from one side, or are we getting both sides?
And how do we feel about those two sides? Is this like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, where one side is obviously good, the other is...
We definitely could go that way. I really like the idea of it, and for lack of a better word, the antagonist of this movie is war itself. There's no plot to chess. Like, when we're playing chess, there's no plot. It's just sort of, I'm going to win. Like, that's the plot. And very often that's what it feels like real war is like, because it's, the important people are making the decisions for the people on the ground. And I think the idea of maybe these two kingdoms are locked in war for generations don't even know what started the war. It's not even about anything. It's not necessarily about like gaining turf or revenge. I guess it's sort of like a revenge because they're always having this fight. Every game of chess, they're always doing this fight over. Each generation plays this game.
And it can only end one way.
Yeah. Either one wins or the other one wins. And I feel like if we pick a side, it sort of completely changes the theme. I mean, we can think of a different theme, but I think it's hard. I think the reason why we shouldn't do it like that, like the Star Wars way or the Lord of the Rings way, is because these two sides are identical, and it doesn't make sense to give one characteristic and the other characteristic. Like I can also see it going like the pawns meeting each other for the first time, and like maybe like that could be like that's what pushes their character arc.
Yeah.
If like our protagonist pawn is sort of like, the other side is the worst, and we have to kill them all, and then
the pawns encounter each other and they start to question.
They encounter each other, they can't pass each other. Like it's like,
oh yeah, because pawns can only attack from the diagonal. So if they're confronted, they can't move.
Yeah, they have to know each other, I guess.
So they're face to face. They're locked and they're not fighting each other. So that's
where they learn the common ground.
Yeah.
Now the fun part, I think, is figuring out what makes them not able to move. Because I feel like the cop out is, well, pawns only move forward. I think that's kind of, maybe it's sort of like they both have to guard a territory, and they're both waiting for reinforcements, and they're just locked and they can't get around each other.
Now, here's another question. In chess, do they fight to the death?
I mean, I assume so. They get removed, right? They get removed from the board.
They get removed from the board. I mean,
or they captured is what you're implying.
Captured. If we change the calculus of this as them fighting for their lives and killing, does this suddenly become a comedy? If they're not all killing each other, if it's some sort of harmless contest between two sides.
Okay.
Do we start to enter farce and something a little more humorous, a little lighthearted?
I mean, we can go that direction. I mean, we could possibly. All right. Well, here's you say comedy. I got a comedic tone. I feel like we could do.
Okay.
So what is it? In the Loop. That.
I've been thinking about In the Loop and also the series, The Thick of It.
Yeah.
Because a few seasons into that, we start seeing we'd mostly been with labor.
Yeah.
But we start to see the Tories. And that's
I mean that could be kind of a fun tone where it's sort of like the higher ups have to deal with like, oh God, like what did we get ourselves into? And the pawns are becoming friends, and it's this sort of like this farcical sort of like like, have you seen the Death of Stalin?
Not yet, but like it's Peter.
It's the same kind of deal. But yeah, I can see it going in that direction where the subject matter is pretty not comedic, but it's the way it's presented is comedic. Like I could even see like keeping the fight to the death because like it's a dark comedy maybe.
It is a dark comedy, and I think that it's a great model because that's shown us that where we see both sides, these equal opposite sides that are constantly vying for the primary position, being the ones in power.
Yeah.
And we see what the people at the top are like.
Yeah.
They're nincompoops.
Right, yeah. Everyone puts their faith in like powers that be, but they're just clueless.
Just idiots.
Yeah.
They're just preening and posturing for the camera.
They just need this endless war to fuel their economy or something. Maybe both sides. Like maybe
that's politics now, isn't it?
The monarchy has agreed to go to war with each other.
There's this in politics. It seems as though it's just this made up contest to keep everybody interested. It's an us versus them mentality.
I think like the protagonists of this movie, one of the pawns at least, and I think the king and queen. There's like an A plot, B plot, probably at least one more plot going on. And the thing is, there's two sides. So there's also like the other king and queen too. Like that could be. I mean, maybe that's part of the story is like the back and forth between the king and queen. Like If we're going for this sort of like kind of farcical kind of thing, I think that the like the White Kingdom, the Black Kingdom are perhaps allies, whatever. There is a very stupid misunderstanding. It's sort of like maybe like Burn After Reading, sort of this farcical like one thing leads to another, and by the end of Act 1, now they're at war, and it just seems to be the only thing they could do, and it's so avoidable and so dumb.
Do they know it's avoidable and dumb, and they're just going through the motions?
I think to a degree, but I think neither of them, they're both too proud to back down. I feel like that seems to be where I'm thinking.
Okay.
And so the act break is like they choose war. And maybe in that whole intro, we're learning about our pawn characters. You know, maybe two pawns are like friends, like from the other sides. You know, maybe that's how that goes. But I kind of like the idea of the pawns meeting on the battlefield. Like that is fun. But I don't know. Maybe there's like a different. Maybe there's like other like two rooks or rook and a knight or something.
Yeah, some pre-existing relationship. I mean, if they had it in a previous alliance, then they probably went to war together against some other enemy not on the board right now. And I agree with you. I think the pawns should meet each other in the field, you know, and we can see. I'm picturing almost a trench warfare now. It's very different.
Yeah.
Not necessarily we need to go into a World War I setting, but picturing trench warfare where your enemy is so close to you, you can talk to them.
Yeah.
But you're at an impasse. You can't move. They can't move. That
makes a lot of sense.
You're stuck in the mud together.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like pawns to me. I like that. So I feel like we've got like an Act 1 roughly, like, you know, we're not filling in all the details, but like, you know, a war happens because of a stupid misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And then I imagine Act 2 is most of the war, most of the battle.
We see our relationship develop between the pawns who they're at the impasse. They can't move forward. They can't get around each other.
I kind of like the idea of the king feeling sort of inadequate as a ruler, as just like a figurehead.
And that can very easily be played for laughs or seriously.
Yeah. Either way, or both. Like you could still have that sort of like human drama while you're still laughing at it. And then what's the resolution? Like every game of chess ends either in, you know, a checkmate or stalemate. Like stalemate might be the end of the game, like at the end of the movie.
I feel like that's probably the best analogy for war, because even when a war is won, it's never really won. There's always, you know, World War I ended. And it sort of led to World War II, which led to the Cold War, which led to...
Right. Yeah.
It's all part of the same story.
But what if it's like the two kings have decided, like, we're going to war. It's going to save our kingdom. This war will get us out of our rut. And the end of the movie is all that's left are the two kings. And neither of them win. It's a stalemate.
Yeah.
Like everyone dies but them.
So if the kings are the only ones left, they can never...
They can't put each other in check.
Because the other one will just take the piece. So
yeah.
So that's our Act 3 is everyone dies.
Yeah, it's a big battle. No one survives it.
And if, you know, that could be played like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Everyone dies.
Right. It could be like that.
Or it could be like Platoon. Everybody dies and you want to kill yourself because it's miserable.
And then there's Doctor Strangelove, which I feel is like the middle ground, where it's kind of like a funny ending, but you're also like, ugh, like at the same time. If it is both kings' ideas, maybe the two kings conspire, and it's like both of our kingdoms need... Like maybe it's like a Thanos thing. They don't have enough resources, so have to kill off some of their people or something, and they need to make it look like it wasn't just them killing their people off. But then in the end, no one's left. They have no kingdom. They're not kings anymore. They're just people with hats, you know? They're just two men with hats. They don't have a kingdom. And so now it's like their little gambit, their little plan really backfired, because now neither of them has anything anymore.
Do we want to cast any of these roles right now?
Maybe. Let's that could be something. like, I don't know if this is like serves the plot at all, but if we have the kings, or like the main pieces are like the same on both sides, like the same actor does both.
Okay.
I don't know if that's anything, but it could be kind of just like a fun thing.
And here's another thing. And this might even keep it ambiguous if this is comedy or drama.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Carell as the kings.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
One could be funny Steve, one could be serious Steve.
It would be interesting to have this as a comedy, but played by traditionally dramatic actors.
And they can be funny. I know
Patrick definitely.
Stewart's hilarious.
Oh yeah, but like sort of pull. Not that we'd be as farcical as Airplane, but like with Leslie Nielsen, his breakout comedy role. Maybe something like that. Like maybe Daniel Day-Lewis. Like
if we can get him out of Italy and stop making shoes for 5 minutes.
Yeah, if we can get him to come back, maybe he'd be fun to see him. Like has he ever done like comedy? I don't think I've ever seen him do comedy.
I don't think I've seen him do comedy. He's done a few small movies that I haven't seen yet. That
Daniel Day-Lewis playing both kings, but not in
very differently.
Very differently. That because he can do that.
Yeah,
I think that'd be very good because like the idea of that, like he could even like they don't even look the same. I mean, like it's the same actor.
Gift. That's what I love about Daniel.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp can do this where he plays very different characters, but if you look at him, you see Johnny Depp and you know it's Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
But if you look side by side, you've got Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood,
mm-hmm.
and then you put him next to his character from In the Name of the Father. He's this freewheeling Irish hippie from the 60s who's just going to London looking for free love.
Yeah.
And, it's the same actor, but they hold themselves so differently. It's if anyone could play two different roles in a movie, it'd be Daniel Day-Lewis.
All right, that's kind of fun. I like that. It's a comedy starring Daniel Day-Lewis playing two different kings that conspire together to start a war for the economy and end up destroying their kingdoms.
Now, I hate to say it, but is this a Sega system? Because that sounds like a Dreamcast. So who do we have next to Daniel? And here is Daniel Day-Lewis the only actor playing both parts? I feel like a case could be made either way. That you
either way, yeah.
I don't know if we could find that many. We'd need
versatile
16 actors to play two very different roles. It's not impossible, but I feel like Daniel Day-Lewis being in the mix sets that bar very high.
They have to be very like we have to pick actors who can really shift because it can't be confusing for the audience. The audience needs to both recognize that they're the same person because that helps the metaphor, but cannot get confused which character am I looking at right now.
So here's a thought, and I was thinking a little bit about this just in terms of I've seen him in both, sort of a more dramatic, granted sci-fi role and in a comedic role. We were already talking about it earlier. Peter Capaldi. I'm seeing him as a bishop.
Okay.
And you could get on the one side, the Malcolm Tucker from The Thick of It in The Loop, where he's just, this Scotsman who's cursing up a blind storm.
Uh-huh.
And then on the other hand, you've got this guy who played the Doctor.
Yeah.
Who's capable of fury and gentleness, and there's a religious thing in that.
Yeah.
Not unlike a religious figure. So
right.
I think there's now is would he be playing one bishop on each side? Because then this asks the question: who is the other bishop on each side?
That's a tricky one. Yeah, and I feel like that's probably it. It's probably two sets.
We could keep that thematically the same and go David Tennant. With Scottish actors who played the Doctor.
Yeah.
And he's also got the we've seen him be, just this wonderful person. We've also seen him be a terrible person. So here, what if the dark David Tennant is partnered with the light Peter Capaldi and vice versa?
I like that swapping. Yes, that's definitely a good idea.
Let's cast the Queen.
Okay.
And again, if there's a role that's played by the same actor on both sides.
Yeah.
King and Queen
King
makes
Queen.
sense.
Yeah.
Everyone else, let's
Yeah.
let's get rid of that gimmick. But who is the actress next to Daniel Day-Lewis? You know who could do it? Maybe Sally Field.
Ooh. That's
She's
interesting.
good.
Yeah.
Is she up to anything right now?
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't.
Because Daniel Day-Lewis has nothing but time on his hands, so I know we could get him.
Right.
If we could trick him into leaving his cobbler shop.
What was like the last movie she was in?
I remember seeing her in Lincoln.
Oh right, yeah. Oh hey, look at that.
But she was. Oh yeah, there we go. Wasn't even thinking of
there
that.
we go. Yeah, this is a sequel to Lincoln.
It really is. We're talking about these equal sides fighting. There's an alliance that's been sundered. It could be brother against brother.
Did we just make Lincoln?
Lincoln 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Lincoln 2, chess. It'd be cool to have like a queen fight with all like their because the queens are very powerful. If there is magic in this, they use magic. If not, they're just like Sally Field punching very well.
I think we got to burn Daniel Day-Lewis. I think if we have him, it just raises more questions than it answers.
Yeah.
Because if we have Daniel Day-Lewis as the king, how is that not the lead? How we're shifting focus away from the pawns at that point.
I think it's like an ensemble cast. Like I feel like the pawns have, if they're, I don't know, we never cast our main pawn, but if the pawn has a strong story, like we can cut back to the king. Like I feel like there's a theme that's being explored from multiple angles where the pawn is going, what is this all about? Why are we fighting? The king is going, what have I done? Why are we fighting? It's this sort of like, he has the power to stop this, but he won't. Like, I feel like both sides are valid for the story. They're all thematically linked.
Well, I mentioned him earlier as the quintessential everyman, the Bilbo Baggins, the Arthur Dent, Martin Freeman
as
the John Watson
as the pawn.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
He's always the everyman. He might be sick of playing the everyman.
Yeah. I kind of was thinking the pawn would be a little younger.
Younger?
Yeah, I was thinking like he's a new recruit. Like that's what I was kind of thinking.
You know what? What about Daniel Radcliffe?
Ooh, I like that.
Because we can either lean into the Harry Potterness of it all, or we could just this could be his platoon moment. Where Charlie Sheen goes out onto his own.
Yeah, I like that.
I like Daniel Radcliffe. I almost said Daniel Day-Lewis.
The Daniel movie. It's all Daniels.
All Daniels all the time.
The whole movie's cast with Daniels.
So here's another Queen casting, and maybe this will take us much more into the comedy. I could see the comedy develop.
Okay.
Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig.
As the two different queens.
queens.
That definitely is the comedic.
Because I feel if we just have Daniel Day-Lewis and if we just have Daniel Radcliffe, and it's a movie about chess, we are very dangerously close to going into pretension.
Okay. You want the audience to see by the cast that we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have some good laughs.
We're gonna have everything. It's gonna be serious. It's gonna be funny.
Okay, that's good. We've got some fun characters.
Here's the question: Is Checkers the sequel or the prequel?
I think it's the prequel, right?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Because there's no kings when you start Checkers. The kings get made in the midst of it.
Oh, it's a king-making game.
It's a king-making game.
That's got to be the prequel, and that's how we see Daniel Day-Lewis become the king.
Yeah, that's it. It's Checkers. Maybe he's King Checkers.
There we go.
And the sequel could be like 3D chess or something. Thanks for watching Screen to Screen. If you've got any ideas for what else we could do on this show, let us know in the comments. And we'll see you next time on Screen to Screen. Bye.